Hello and welcome to our latest episode of the RiskWire Webcast. I'm Reena Agrawal, Research Economist at Veros Real Estate Solutions.
And my name is Eric Fox. I'm Chief Economist at Veros Real Estate Solutions. So, Reena, today I kind of had a question about the younger generation and home buying, and that is to say, the folks that are in their late 20s, 30s, maybe into their early 40s, and those would be known as the Millennials, who were born between roughly 1981 and 1996. And I think back many, many years when I was in that age range, and it wasn't so difficult to buy a house. You saved up a little. The median house price was around $100,000 in the United States, and it wasn't a stretch to do that. Today, when I look at what millennials have to contend with, the median house price in the United States is over $400,000, much higher than that in some areas. And yet, how do they possibly begin to afford a home?
Yes, that is a very interesting question. And in fact, last year, 28% of the home buyers were millennials. So really, it's a great question. How are they able to afford these high home prices? And one trend that we are observing here in the US is that more and more young adults are choosing to live with their parents. For example, according to census data, last year, around 7.2 million young adults, that is ages 25 to 34, were living with their parents. And this trend has been gradually increasing. Just in the last decade, in 2010, only 5.5 million adults were living with their parents. So, and this trend kind of got more intense during the pandemic. You know what happened during the pandemic? There were restrictions, there were lockdowns, and college students and other young adults, they moved in with their parents. And once those restrictions eased, they wanted to move out, but they figured out they couldn't because at that point, home prices were soaring, rents were soaring, inflation was high, and they figured out they even had student loan debts and other financial constraints. So they decided to stay back.
Now, when I was growing up and my generation, when we turned 18 or when we turned 22 after graduating college, first thing we wanted to do was to move out, be on our own, be financially self-sufficient. So what are millennials today thinking about when they're 27, 28, 30 years old and still living with parents? Is that not viewed by them in the same negative way that perhaps we would have done when we were their age?
It seems attitudes are changing. Staying with parents is no longer considered a taboo. In fact, young adults now consider it a very strategic decision that they're staying with their parents because they're saving up on rent and other household related expenditures. And in a couple of years, now they have enough saved up to put in the down payment for a house. In fact, data shows that around 60 million people in the US now are living in a multi-generational home. And again, this number has been steadily increasing. So the young adults are very smart, I think. They're saving in on all that rent money and building up their little nest egg to buy a house.
That's very interesting. I think the multi-generational houses, maybe in a lot of other countries, have been the norm for many decades and fairly new, perhaps, here in the United States.
Yep, I think this trend is gaining more traction here in the US. And in fact, data from the National Association of Realtors shows that 20% of first-time home buyers last year, they moved in either from a friend's or relative's home. So this kind of is supporting this trend we are seeing. And this is how the millennials are navigating this high price scenario in the housing market.
Well, thank you very much for all your insights, Reena. My name is Eric Fox. Thank you for joining us.
And I'm Reena Agrawal. See you next time.